Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 video here. Today I'm going to be showing you my Fire Titan leveling build. First off, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it, helps me out. We hit 1,400 subs recently, we're going to go for 1,500 now, so this is my character so far. Finally have a little bit of a chance to play. Currently in Act 2, just started getting level 7 gems. And unfortunately, I have to record in DirectX 11, so apologies that, you know, it doesn't look quite as good as it normally would in DirectX 12, but for whatever reason, OBS doesn't work when you're recording on DirectX 12, so kind of just go ahead and show you what we're working with here. So again, this is my leveling setup. Man, it's just kind of too bad I can't record in DirectX 12. You almost can't even play the game in DirectX 11. It just locks up so much. So let's see if we can find a pack here where it doesn't just like give me all this bullcrap freezing, locking up. Fortunately, it just kind of is what it is. Almost don't even want to like make videos now, just because it's kind of a miserable experience for me. Unfortunately, until they fix this, but you know, the show must go on. So, what I've kind of discovered here, what I touched briefly on in the last video, applies also to Volcanic Fissure. So Volcanic Fissure is triggered by the totem. The totem counts as a slam. So basically every time the totem goes off, if I have a bunch of fissures, kind of show you the combo. I like to fissure, earthquake, and then, you know, throw down the totem. You can kind of like spread it, and as long as the fissures are linked and touching each other, it will just continue to like, so I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. So you can just kind of progressively extend your fissures, and every time the totem pulses, it's gonna pulse along all those fissures. So this is fantastic for just clearing things. Having no problems, just clearing everything very quickly and efficiently as I am leveling so far. The totem also causes the earthquake to pulse, and as you can see, the earthquake causes the fissures also to pulse. So fortunately, we're just dealing with this DirectX 11, so it doesn't want to play very smoothly. So, but as you can see, pretty fantastic clear speed in my opinion for this level. I do have a fairly nice like leveling weapon that I will go ahead and I'll show you right now. So this, along with these gloves, I think I also have a little bit of fire damage on this ring, so that is really giving me a lot of added DPS for leveling up. So if you are able to pick up, you know, that type of gear, it will help this build significantly. My thoughts so far on this patch, I was like getting a little pessimistic about PoE 2 because I felt like they were just taking the game, you know, in the wrong direction, and they have really restored my faith in their development process and their design, because they've made just some kind of major changes to systems in the game that I kind of expected that they wouldn't. you know, because they changed their minds on... Oh. So they changed the way this selection here. Charge is gained or duration. I'm gonna say probably duration is more important. Because the charges gained is really not like a big deal for the most part. But the duration, I think, is more important because you get more active effect when you actually want it and or need it. So yeah, they changed some of my biggest complaints with PoE 2, and that was like the support gems, you know, only having one per ability. So now you can actually create builds that actually function, that are thematic. When you could only use one added, like, fire support gem, it was very limiting on, you know, like, if you wanted to actually try and make a fire-based character, because, you know, you're not going to really be able to scale fire damage on more than, like, one ability. And the way that they've designed PoE 2 versus PoE 1 is that you kind of have to use a multitude of abilities to create kind of an effective build. So, but you can just kind of see, like, how well this kills everything. You know, I'm level 27. This is a level 26 area. There might be one more seal that I need to unlock. I also am a huge fan of the new sprint ability. That is also game-changing. Playing through the campaign again now with the checkpoint teleportation in place. You know, I know it came out a little while ago, but I did not like replay through the campaign after it had, you know, been patched into the game. So playing with that in place now, you can just, you know, the leveling experience feels significantly better. I am enjoying the added minion density from the abyss mobs. But yeah, you can kind of see how you know, when you get all the fissures going, it's a pretty cool effect. And I really wish I was using DirectX 12 right now, because my frame rates are just really heavily dropping. It's kind of amazing how big of a performance difference it is.
Destruction!
So my kind of plans for this build, you know, I don't really know exactly how it's gonna work out, but it is, you know, gonna be some sort of fire-based character. I was debating between going with Warbringer, but after looking at, you know, that class,
it's exceptional.
kind of interesting. After looking at the class, I didn't really feel like it was going to be any better than Titan, and I also did not really want to play Smith and Fatava again, since that was the last character I played. So I went ahead and opted to just play the Titan. Really the only thing the Warbringer has, I think, that could possibly, you know, be a little better than what the Titan has to offer is just the 0 cooldown on war cries, but I really don't think that that was going to make or break this build. But I do think that the buffs that Titan gets to, you know, Aftershock chance and to ancestrally boosted slams, as well as hulking form, I think those are, you know, significant power boosts. And then, you know, there's still a couple other, you know, if you wanted to, you could get the additional armor or the additional life. I don't think those are really the best that the Titan has to offer. So I'm going to basically do the same, at least Ascendancy setup that I did previously. With and I did choose to go with colossal capacity. You know, I didn't really think about it previously, and you know, you can respec these. So I don't know if I'll keep this and just get hulking form next and then go up here, or if I would respec out of these and go this way. But I'm finding it is actually really nice having this extra inventory space while I'm leveling. It's basically saved me a ton of time, as far as like limiting trips to town and still getting all my inventory. So here you can kind of see the new sprinting feature in action. I mean, if you're playing the game already, you've used it a lot, I'm sure, so it's, you know, not new to you, but it is so much better, so much better. I mean, imagine running across this entire map at this speed. It was, you know, painstakingly just not fun. And you know, especially if you're kind of used to the speed of PoE 1, how quickly you could traverse some areas, it feels way better. And then now, you know, you don't have to backtrack, you just boom, teleport over here to this other area. Feels so much better. I guess I need to get like another charm. So it's kind of nice. I guess the charms are inherent, like the second charm. And then your belt, I guess, only has to have 2 charm slots now. And then you've got 3 charms. At least that's how I'm assuming it works. A couple other things that they did add into the passive tree that, you know, previously was not there. There is a few extra maximum life nodes, which I think is good. So we've got this one here, gives you 3% max life, as well as, you know, some other good stuff. And then there is, where is it? That's reduced life. There's something down here. So you can get 5 extra max life if you have 10 red gems socketed. So I think these are kind of probably like gemling, like a gemling legionnaire node, you know, even if you look at the name Gem Enthusiast. So I don't know if it's possible to have that many, like to have 30 support gems socketed. That would be a lot of different skills. But I'm imagining you could get at least 2 of these bonuses, but even the 5% max life bonus is fairly substantial, especially when you consider with like hulking form, these turn into plus 12 nodes, so not bad for stats if you're, you know, stacking stats. I'm really not happy with the Giant's Blood nerf, so I am not sure if I will utilize Giant's Blood in this build or not, or if I will just utilize one-handed hammers, because with elemental damage, Elemental damage scales, you know, well off of attack speed because monster resistances are a percentage, so you're not like crushing armor
The first ones
by
cannot
having
help me here.
really high physical damage. It's just basically a number against a percentage, so whether you hit fast with a smaller number or, you know, higher with a larger number, it doesn't really affect your overall DPS. And I'm not even sure exactly how burn damage works anymore. But they, you know, of course they changed how just burning works in general. So igniting things is actually pretty easy. You just do fire damage to it, and eventually, you know, it's gonna get to the point where it ignites the enemy. So some benefits to that, you know, there's some status effects that happen based off if the enemy is burning. You can get extra damage, so I do like that change. I think it's really good. I think it's going to help this build. I'm still waiting for them. Oh. So you just get a rune from that. So, I mean, at least they added something. Because before you got nothing, and it just seemed kind of odd. So, at least that's something, even if it's just a rune. Dead end. So yeah, my plan is to use the hammer throwing ability. I forget exactly what it's called. Don't know if I'll continue to use the totem or not, but right now, for leveling, it's incredibly effective on proccing the slams. I even find myself using active block a lot more, especially in the leveling process. I like the new, what is it, magma barrier. 25, you know, it gives you some 25% increased block. I've been debating whether or not I want to invest in like heavily into armor, or if that's gonna be worth it. I think on my other character I would, just because I would try out that new stat, the armor per resistance, or your armor affects elemental resistance. The only thing I'm not sure about right now is, you know, I've got 30%, 35% block. The new max block is 50%. So if I'm utilizing block, then, you know, I don't know if it's worth it or not. Ooh. But yeah, so I don't know if I go Giant's Blood, I'm gonna have a lower life pool, and then I feel like to overcome that, you would almost need to have like a better block chance. But, you know, is it worth it? then I thought yeah. Oh wait, that's tier 2.
Face me!
Yeah, the other nice thing about this setup is that, you know, I can auto attack or, you know, do mace strike, which is really high DPS, especially single target, while all these other things are going off. And, you know, they just boost my overall total DPS. So,
It's enormous.
I'll kind of show you what that looks like here. I guess you can't block those.
Crush them!
Oh, that was... Ooh, almost killed myself there.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
But yeah, I think that this has pretty solid single target and AoE. So definitely worth I think trying out for leveling. And I've got shield charge. We've got raised shield, we've got volcanic fissure. I've got Infernal Cry, but I don't really use it at the moment. This is what the skill tree looks like at the moment. Just picked up, you know, these for the armor and the life regen. Got this for a little bit of shield block and the heavy stun build up, emptying faster. Over here, picked up the one-hand nodes. They seem fairly strong. And that's the other thing, is I'm not sure if the investment into Giant's Blood is like worth it now, because the whole point before was you could make a really tanky character doing that with like a high, you know, fairly high like alpha damage output. I do like the changes here. They took off the reduction to mana on these, so that's really good. These nodes are like very, very strong now. Like you just take a 10% mana reduction and you get huge boons from here, especially as a Titan. Before it was like to take these was almost like a 25 or 30% something around there, like mana reduction, which was, you know, kind of difficult to overcome on a character that you're just stacking absurd amounts of strength on. So I'm debating like what is gonna be best to pick up now. The tree is definitely a lot more dense, but you still have to kind of pick and choose what it is that you want. So right now I'm picking up this. I may end up doing a shattering blow, like 100% armor break on heavy stun again. Just because there's a node down here that makes your armor break also apply to fire damage, which is kind of interesting. And I forget exactly where it is. Yeah, this one here. So, I mean, pretty decent node. Fire resistance, which there's not a lot of fire, you know, just elemental resistances on the stat tree. But you get 10 fire resist, and then you also get your fully broken armor effects apply to fire damage taken from hits. So that's kind of interesting because with the heavy stun build, you can pretty easily break armor. I didn't realize this though until I read this tooltip here, that so physical damage there was a tooltip that described it better. I think it said, I don't know where the tooltip was, but it said that physical melee attacks, so like having the melee attack tag gives you 50% more stun buildup, and then also physical damage gives you another 50% more stun buildup. So that was why my previous character had just such a crazy amount of stun buildup, because it was melee high physical damage. So that was basically like 100% more stun buildup, and I'm trying to remember where I got that. Oh, I think it's on this tooltip here. So yeah, at the bottom, physical damage and player melee damage each cause 50% more heavy stun buildup. So for players, these bonuses are multiplicative with each other. So that means that by using physical melee damage, you get 100% more melee stun, or heavy stun buildup. So by utilizing a fire build, you are gonna lose 50% more stun buildup, which I don't think is really a huge deal, because just using playing like my monk build, I think it was a lot of elemental damage as well, and it didn't really seem to have much issue also stunning bosses. And then there is that, cooldown kind of in between like heavy stuns. So if you get a heavy stun, you kind of have to wait for their like stun gauge to reset before you can stun them again. But I also might just do like a really high physical build with the added fire damage, as well as like picking this up and just getting extra fire damage on top of the physical damage. And then when you use Infernal Cry on top of that, it would still be a significant amount of fire damage and physical damage. So that's also something I'm considering, which Infernal Cry causes you to get 35% of your damage as extra fire damage, so it doesn't really matter what type it is. It could be cold, it could be physical, could be lightning, could be fire, chaos, etc. Whatever damage, it's going to give you extra 50% or 35% as fire. So I think that's good. Obviously the aftershocks are good. This is really good. I do think that they buffed, they did buff Supercharged Slam quite a bit to where it is a strong ability without having to stand there and charge it up for, you know, 5-10 seconds to the maximum charges or stages. Basically a level 1 supercharged slam is gonna do like the same hit damage as, I think it was like a level like 4 charged before. So I mean, maybe it will be good from a point of just like using it repeatedly, or maybe like you delay it a little bit to get, you know, the setup you want for when you let it go. Or if, you know, you just want to charge it up a little more and get the extra aftershocks. So I may do a supercharged slam type setup with the hammer throw. I mean, I don't see, like, I still think it would be good. I'm not really too sure on the Calm's Warcry, because it is going to convert all of your damage to fire. And again, like I said, I'm just not too sure if that's going to be as beneficial, you know, as it you know, otherwise would be. I just don't know if that's gonna really, I don't know if that's gonna benefit you a whole lot, because you're gonna have to pretty heavily invest, I think, into like fire penetration in order to get the most bang for your buck. Like this here too, like I was saying, with a high physical damage build would, you know, give you a huge boost. And then there are just, you know, huge boosts to damage, like to ignited enemies. You know, you could pick up like just between this one node here and this one over here, that's 70% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. So that's pretty significant. And then if you take all these extra like fire, extra damage as fire nodes, I think for a pretty small investment, and then you get this over here. That's gonna also just give you a pretty significant boost. So even down here, so that would give you like 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. A little bit of fire pen, you know, it's on not too far away from that. There's some pretty good like Warcry nodes and stuff. So we may still end up going Giant's Blood and just testing it out. I'm just not sure. I haven't quite yet decided what my defensive options are going to look like. I mean, obviously I'm going to have a shield, so blocking is part of it. The only thing I don't know is like kind of what made my last build so effective was I had, you know, 75% block from just a couple of nodes getting like glancing blows, and now they've just kind of changed how that node works in general. They did move the strength stacking accuracy over here, so I will be getting that. I think they kind of made Resolute Technique obsolete as well. I don't think doubling your accuracy rating is going to do a whole lot, especially if you just never critically strike. I mean, even a, you know, 5%, 10% critical strike chance, you know, whatever it is. Like, if you never miss, that's pretty good. Like, that trade-off maybe is worth not having to invest into accuracy at all for giving up, like, a really low crit chance. But just doubling your accuracy, I don't know if that's worth it, you know what I mean? So, something to think about, you know, just kind of a major change to the function of it. I almost think if they're gonna do something like that, it should be more along the lines of like your accuracy rating is doubled, but your critical hit damage is, you know, lowered. I don't know. I just feel like the trade-off here isn't. Before it was like always hit, never crit, and now it's like accuracy rating is doubled, but you never crit. So it's like a ×2 for your accuracy, but a ×0 for your crit. Like, that seems like a pretty bad trade-off in my opinion. I'm just not sure on these armor applies to elemental damage nodes. Like, if you invest heavily into them, I could see them being pretty good. And even up here, there's another, you know, physical extra fire damage node. So that's kind of what I'm a little more interested in at the moment, is making like a really high, again, physical damage build, and then, you know, more or less doubling it with fire damage. So you'll have a huge physical hit with a huge fire hit. I'm kind of wondering if I have like a pretty good block chance, if I can get away with not investing into armor, really. I just don't know. I mean, it probably won't work very well. I'll probably have to invest. I haven't figured it out yet as far as the defensive options go, because of how many changes that they've done to the tree. So I just think it's going to be a pretty big investment. I mean, I could get this here. I just don't like the ones that are specific to a damage type, unless it's like part of your build. Like, if you have, you know, physical damage taken as fire damage specifically, then this would probably be good. But I don't know exactly where you can get that stat from, and if it would be beneficial currently for me to like pick up, like if it's on any gear that would be beneficial. Outside of, I guess, like Smith of Kitava, that would probably be a good setup if you were doing the Smith of Kitava. But again, I think Hulking Form is amazing. And then having Earthbreaker and Ancestral Empowerment, also very, very good. Kind of seems like with how they did not buff or nerf Titan, that they're fairly happy with the Ascendancy on the whole. I think it's probably one of the better, in my opinion, like, you know, made Ascendancies, because I'm not necessarily sold that, you know, these are the best options all the time. Like, I could definitely make a character where, like, I could utilize these nodes here, and not use these, or, you know, some different combination. Like, if you wanted to just make a super tanky character, like, you could get these, and then you could get these here, and this here, and you could make a super tanky character that way. You could also just make a super, like, stun-centric character based off this. And do, like, a lot of extra damage when you stun. But I'm just not really sold on that, because typically you're gonna kill all the trash mobs before you heavy stun them, and then on the bosses, like, I just don't know if it's gonna be, you know, really worth it. So I just need to plan a little bit in terms of what the rest of the passive tree is gonna look like. I'm gonna get this. I could pick up some of these, probably not for a little while. I may pick up, you know, some of the shield nodes, additional shield nodes that are just close to me. Like, this is fairly low investment for, you know, some decent shield stuff. This is fairly low investment for me because I'm going to come here anyways. So I think for leveling, probably the shield nodes, and, you know, just getting a decent block chance and life total is going to be really all the defensive options that you need leveling up. When you hit maps, I'm sure that it's going to be a little more complicated than that. So I would kind of like to get this, and maybe like this, and then at least you'll have like 60% of armor applies to elemental damage. And I know the formula is like it happens pre that's interesting, some critical, like, fire nodes. So the damage formula for this now is armor would affect the elemental damage before the resistances. So it's not quite as really good as it was in PoE 2, is what a lot, or PoE 1 is what everyone says. But if you look at it, the values are also much higher. So if you get enough of it, it will be a pretty significant, you know, still boost, but you will have to kind of invest in it, I think, to make it impactful, which, you know, is not necessarily a bad thing. But my issue with it is it's a lot of points. So even here, right here, I forgot about this. This is really good. 5% of physical damage taken as fire. So, like, that would make it kind of worth investing a little more into the, like, this type of node. So I'm gonna have to look at, you know, just some of the uniques out there. How else you can get that stat, like physical damage taken as fire. Because if I can get enough of that, then I probably won't invest quite as much into armor, but I would pick up, you know, something like this, because it's still gonna be like, you know, just an extra layer of defense. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video because I'm just kind of like thinking out loud and ranting a little bit now. But thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening, and remember to give them the D.